Hi, this is Kate from the Watertown Public Library in Teen Services. Welcome to Mindful Mondays for July 13th. If you haven't joined us before, real briefly, the reason we are doing Mindful Mondays is to help provide um, tips and techniques for ways that we can feel more grounded within the present moment, even when things are stressful and kind of uncertain. It gives us some ways to be able to focus on the present and spend less time worrying about what potentially could happen. So today I'd like to talk about the concept of Wabi Sabi. Um, Nothing lasts, nothing is finished, and nothing is perfect. What is Wabi Sabi? Wabi Sabi is a Japanese concept of beauty that recognizes and appreciates the imperfection, the temporariness, and the incompleteness of things. Um, and often it will take the form of, if it's an item that is broken, like in the attached picture, they will actually embellish the broken part to draw attention to the beauty of the fact that there is beauty in the concept of things going through um, a life cycle of impermanence and eventual brokenness and decay, but that there's still beauty in that. So in your life, think about things that are imperfect, temporary, or incomplete that you might be able to describe as wabi sabi. So if you think about, if you have a favorite pair of jeans that are worn, that have kind of just conformed just perfectly, or are just worn or soft in the right places. Maybe you have a broken in pair of shoes that are just perfectly formed to your feet and don't look new anymore, but are still um, kind of beautiful in their imperfection. Um, I know I have a Irish sweater I bought when I was in Ireland, and it is made of the softest wool that I've ever felt, and I love that sweater. It's horribly ugly and unflattering, and it has become threadbare over the years and has holes in it, and it looks really ratty and tattered when I wear it, but it is very comforting, and um, I absolutely love everything about it. Um, that I really appreciate its wabi sabi-ness. Um, Wabi sabi can also be something that you think about in the sense of seasons, of nature, that things go through cycles, that everything is temporary and nothing is perfect. If you think about nature, not everything is perfectly symmetric. Um, the fence is a perfect example of kind of the organic nature of the way things are in the natural world, and that they're not perfect, but that they can be appreciated in their imperfection and in their temporariness. Just like the barn in the corner picture that is falling down and kind of sloping. It's got a beauty kind of all its own. So how does wabi sabi relate to mindfulness? Well, mindfulness really teaches us to appreciate, to focus, and really draw our attention to the present moment, just how it is without judgment. Um, Wabi Sabi is about appreciating the imperfections, the temporariness of things. So by combining those two, you're finding beauty in and really living within the moment mindfully, appreciating it just as it exists. So how you can apply this in your life and kind of as you're practicing mindfulness is thinking about things that you would characterize as wabi sabi in your daily life, using that as a touchstone for practicing your mindfulness activities, focusing on the moment's wabi sabiness, how beautifully imperfect, fleeting it is, how it's working its way through um, the life cycle of, you know, being new, being worn, falling apart, eventually decaying, or the cycle of nature in, as you know, if you think about it, as the seasons turn or as the day progresses, the moments throughout the day or the moments throughout the season, um, that, you know, fresh snowfall the first time it snows in winter, or the smell of leaves or the color of the leaves in the fall as the trees are changing. Um, so really, whatever moment you're in, focusing and appreciating the wabi sabiness of it, um, and use that as a way to really fully immerse yourself and practice mindfulness in that moment. When it can also be helpful when you're in a situation that's stressful, or you find yourself uh, perseverating or worrying about something, in a situation. Um, let's say you are worried about an upcoming test and maybe you're not sure if you're going to pass that test. Reframing the present moment and identifying the wabi sabiness of it, so that, you know, this is temporary, it's fleeting, it's not going to be forever. This is a period in time that you're currently experiencing. And then think about the story that you're telling yourself about the present moment. So when you are telling yourself about a test that you're worried you're failing, as you're taking it or as you're preparing for it, um, or being concerned that that's a possibility, that isn't fact. That your thought about that moment isn't actually what is happening right in that moment. So there's a stop method that we'll talk about in the next slide that you can walk yourself through to kind of separate your thoughts from the fact of that moment, and identifying how you're feeling in that moment, both emotionally and physically. And by identifying those things, you're helping to release that stress and that tension from your body, and to practice grounding yourself in that moment in a more peaceful way. So the stop method is, you stop what you're doing, take a few breaths. So we've talked about breathing deeply and slowly through your nose, holding that for the count of 4, releasing it slowly through your mouth, and practicing that, not to the point where you are breathing, trying to take extra deep breaths each time, but really breathing in a way that is calming. When people are stressed, you take very slow, or I'm sorry, very fast, shallow breaths. So kind of bringing attention to your breath and how you're breathing, and slowing that down to a pace that is going to help relax your body. And then observe your experience just as it is. So again, thinking about what is the story that your thoughts are telling you about that moment. How are you feeling about it? What are your emotions? What does your body feel like? You know, are you tense? Again, noticing your breathing, and then separating your thoughts from the fact of the moment. So worrying that you're going to fail the test while you're taking it, that worry of failing hasn't happened. That moment hasn't happened yet. You're in the current moment of actually taking the exam, um, and really focusing on being in that current moment. And then proceed by doing something that you know will support you mindfully in that moment. So if it's something where you're focused on your breathing, something where you're pausing to take a moment to think, to reconnect and ground yourself. Maybe it's talking through how you're feeling. If you're worried about something and you're in a situation where you can talk it through. If you meditating or practicing your affirmations to help ground you again in the present moment and make you feel calmer. So for extra practice, consider what you might have around you that you would characterize as being Wabi Sabi, and use that to practice mindfully being in the present moment and appreciating the Wabi Sabi-ness of it. And then practice identifying your strong thoughts and feelings and separating them from the facts of the moment, particularly in situations that you feel stressed or nervous about. Really helping to like get your mind in the practice of stopping, pausing, taking a deep breath, identifying how you're feeling in that moment and what's really happening in that moment, and then how you can proceed in a way that's going to be healthier and more mindful for you. And notice how it's making you feel in that moment as you go through those steps. So thank you for joining us again for Teen Mindful Mondays. We hope to see you next Monday at 10 a.m. Thanks and have a great week.